Matty restrung it last night, so I got to run it through a tune right quick. I apologize.
President Trump posting an image suggesting he will be proposing 50-year mortgages, a move his federal housing director confirms they are indeed working on, promising to be a, quote, game changer. Here with what that could mean for you and your wallet, former Trump economic advisor Stephen Moore. So great to see you this morning, Stephen. So what would a 50-year mortgage even look like?
Great to be with you, Charlie. Well, I had just heard about this idea yesterday and pondering it. Look, here's what would happen if you had these 50-year mortgages. Your monthly mortgage payment would go down, right, Charlie, because you're paying that mortgage over 50 years rather than, say, 20 or 30 years. So if you want to make housing more affordable in the very short term, that might be a good way to bring down monthly mortgage payments, but then you're going to pay for a long, long time. You're going to be paying that mortgage payment for most of your life. And so that's a question of whether it makes sense financially to people.
Yeah.
But right now, where people are really struggling to find a home where they can meet those mortgage payments, it might make sense for people. By the way, the federal government should also be issuing 50-year debt because interest rates are low. It'd be a way for us to lock in low interest rates so that if we had a huge spike in interest rates in the future, we wouldn't be in a real problem situation financially.
And so, of course, after 30 years, if you had a 50-year mortgage after 30 years, the way banks structure loans, you probably still wouldn't own, would about 10% actually own, but about 20% of your house.
That's a good point. That's a good point. You know, you want to build up equity in your home. That's why a lot of people, you know, when they have the financial means to do so, they speed up their mortgage payments. But listen, the problem with our housing situation right now really is so many restrictions on building multifamily homes in a lot of areas. By the way, I can tell you one city in America where housing prices are going to go way down. You know what city that is?
What's that?
New York City, because everybody's going to move out.
Right, exactly.
So if you want to buy a house, maybe think about doing it in New York.
It'll be the opposite of importing millions of illegals and then putting them up for free at taxpayer expense. I want to ask you real quickly about this. Fox News voter analysis shows a vast majority of voters who haven't even lived in New York for 10 plus years back Mamdani, as well as a majority of college grads. How much is this shift of young people towards socialism in America the result of a complete collapse of our education system?
Totally, and completely. I mean, how embarrassing is it that, you know, after spending a couple $100,000 putting people through college, they come out believing that socialism works. You know, I was really privileged to know Milton Friedman before he died, the greatest economist of the last century, and he used to tell me at the end of his life, he goes, I don't get it. You know, the one most enduring lesson that every American, everyone around the world should have learned about the 20th century is that socialism and communism are a complete failure, and free enterprise and freedom are a success. And yet, we were graduating kids from college who actually think exactly the opposite. It's a very dangerous situation. And yes, it is an indictment of our school system, especially our university. It's almost like the more years of college you have, the stupider you get.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's fair to say socialism has not been successful, because 100 million people have been killed by communism. And for the people that bring us communism, I think that's what they're trying to do. But
Look, it's when you give more power to politicians, which is what socialism is, it leads to atrocities. I mean, information killed by all of these people who came in with a nice smile and a nice handshake, and then they kill people. It's a very dangerous situation, but people will be moving out of New York now. My prediction is Wall Street will no longer be in New York. It's moving to Dallas, Texas. You heard it first on Fox and Friends.
I have all the faith in you. Stephen Moore, thank you so much.
Oh, by the way, can I just say one other quick thing on the way out? I'm a really great investor because I even got a higher rate of return on my stocks than Nancy Pelosi.
Nice. Excellent. That does not surprise me. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Chad Perner, our senior Capitol Hill correspondent, back on the Hill this morning. Chad, where do we stand?
Well, we're waiting to see what happens early this afternoon. The Senate Republican Conference, they'll have a meeting and get everybody together in the early afternoon. I was told that one goal would be to have a test vote sometime this afternoon. I'm also told that they might not put that on the floor if they don't think that they have the votes. Now, in order to, get across the barricade there and get across the test vote, they need 60 yeas. That means they have to persuade Democrats. And I talked to some Democrats last night who were still a little bit on the fence about this. I mean, you've had this coterie of John Fetterman, the Democrat from Pennsylvania, Angus King, the independent from Maine, and Catherine Cortez Masto from Nevada, who've all voted on these other, test votes before throughout September into October, but they've never moved the ball. The other issue here that might be the holdup is we still don't have bill text. Bill text, and this would deal with funding the government, reopening the government until the end of January. It would also fund the Department of Agriculture, the Congress, and the Department of Veterans Affairs for the entire fiscal year through next fall. And so they think that they might be able to pluck off some Democrats there, and it's about the math. You have to get 60 votes. If they get 60 votes, that will be a signal that it's only a matter of time that the Senate will pass that bill, and eventually the government will probably reopen. It's not bill text yet. That tells me a lot that this is still in this stasis.
Does that mean that the possible Democrat senators who could cross over, like you mentioned, Cortez Masto, Fetterman, and King, of course, but I know that, we're looking at people like Gary Peters, Maggie Hassan, John Ossoff, who Jeff McCarthy was pointing out. He has the Atlanta airport, one of the largest in the country there. Are these senators that are possibly fence sitters waiting to see the actual language and then really indicate whether or not they're willing to cross?
Certainly, but Democrats say, there's still no agreement on health care, and that's what they've been holding out on. And this is going to be the real, dirty politics of this. Let's say you have a group of Democrats. That's on this week. There's so much pressure to reopen the government. We're getting some things on the spending bills that we want, and for the good of the country, we're going to vote yes on the procedural bill. Doesn't mean they're going to vote yes on the underlying bill. They get across the procedural vote. And unlike in March, you're not going to have the Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, supporting this. These are going to be rank-and-file members for the most part. The dirty part of this on the Democratic side of the aisle for them is that you might have these Democrats say, look, we're going to vote to open the government, and there was nothing on health care. And what does that do for the progressives and House Democrats who are just absolutely raging at Senate Democrats to say, you really threw us under the bus here. They felt that was what happened. with Chuck Schumer back in March. Again, he probably won't vote to break that filibuster, but if you have those others, you're going to have that internal clash inside the Democratic Party, and that is going to be nasty.
Yeah, so of course he can't vote for that because he's worried about a threat from his left in a primary challenge. But the last salvo we saw that we know about really was Chuck Schumer's proposal for extending the subsidy for a year. An audacious proposal and probably one that every Republican kind of laughed at. But I sort of got to wonder whether or not maybe that might be sort of a negotiating tool, because he's hoping that, well, maybe we start here and then whittle back from there. Do you get any sense of that, Chad?
Absolutely, because, some Democrats will say, that might be an opening negotiating point. But here's the other thing that's happened on the Republican side of the aisle. They have used this, and if you watch the floor speeches in the Senate yesterday, as an opportunity to completely relitigate Obamacare. Remember that in 2010, when they finally passed the final version of that in March of 2010, all we heard for years was that Republicans, once they got the House back and they got the Senate, they were going to repeal and replace Obamacare. They were never successful in so doing. So what they're doing now, we're almost back in a time machine, 2010, 2012, where they're talking about, from their perspective, an opportunity to fix that program. But there's a lot of Republicans also, when you talk to them off to the side. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Republican from Georgia, has been very vocal about this herself, but saying, this affects so many people in my state, so many people in my district. We just can't cut these people off because these premium spikes are through the roof. So that is a negotiating point. But on the other side of the ball here, you've had the president saying, let's get the insurance companies out of it. Let's send money directly, a subsidy perhaps, directly to people to buy insurance. Whether or not that would work, I don't know. But that's the idea here. And so, again, this is where I say I'm in a time machine, and they're talking like it's, 2010, 2011 again about Obamacare and trying to talk about what a problem it was from their perspective.
Yeah. Well, Chad, if you're the insurance companies, this is a president who might actually take that money that would go to them and give it back to the people. He's been tweeting out that Obamacare sucks. He also said that the Republicans must blow up the filibuster and approve hundreds of long-sought but never forgotten policy wins. As just a small example, voter ID, which is, by the way, very popular to reform our election. So a lot of people who voted for President Trump are saying, yeah, why don't they get rid of the filibuster and we can pass all this stuff and reopen the government? Do you think this is a threat that the Democrats are taking seriously?
A couple things there. It's about the math on that, too. They don't have the votes to undo the filibuster. There's a lot of Republicans who are resistant to that, and it would be a question, do they get rid of the filibuster for all legislation? Or is it something narrow for appropriations bills, or to just reopen the government? Or in this particular instance, you could craft a resolution to do a nuclear option and alter the filibuster and do it specifically saying, because we need to open the government here in November of 2025. You could do it with that level of specificity. Okay, that might be one option if we go another 2 or 3 weeks with a government shutdown. But here's the other thing. I think that a lot of members are very suspect about this on both sides of the aisle. And the other thing I thought that was interesting is that the president has said this, and you know that most Republicans in the Senate are in pretty much lockstep with President Trump, but this is the one issue where he has been resisted. They have resisted him. And so it's something that just isn't flying yet in the Senate and may never fly at this stage. And I think that's very interesting that that's the one thing that he has harped on, with these Senate Republicans, maybe trying to gin up some support there, but so far it hasn't worked.
So, Chad, we have to go, but real quickly, if you were to guess what that number would be among Republicans right now in the Senate who would resist pulling the trigger on abolishing the filibuster, how many Republicans would that be?
I think you're a good 10 to 15 away minimum, and probably many more. And again, it depends on the specific question. Is it for appropriations bills? Is it for all legislation? That number would change and be in flux based on that.
Well, and there's a lot of debate, obviously, just starting now, that you could actually carve out a narrow legislative lane and not apply to other legislation, whereas the previous nuking of the filibuster was on the executive
But once you crack that door, Griff, that's what they're worried about. Once
the door has already been cracked
on the legislative side, you see, but the door has been cracked on nominations, never on legislation. So once they cross that Rubicon into legislation, that's a very different piece of turf.
As always, Chad Burgum, excellent coverage. Bring anything you have to us as the news warrants. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
Chris Hansen did a ride along and caught a wild one.
A trans illegal. Meet Deanna Devon Richardson. He allegedly sexually assaulted 2 young boys while he was babysitting. Hansen nabbed him getting a pumpkin spice at Starbucks.
Do you know why they decided to pick you up today?
I don't know. I was on my way to an appointment.
Right.
For a new apartment. And it jumped out of nowhere. I wasn't even paying attention. I was on my way to get to Starbucks.
Deanna says the sexual assault was no problemo because the family had mucho dinero.
When you're a black individual with no disability living in a town that's racist, things happen.
What impact do you think that sexual assault had on those 2 15-year-old boys?
Nothing, they were rich.
Wow. Instead of taking accountability, he turned the tables on heads and pulled the potatoes. Wouldn't answer any follow-ups.
Hopefully you get a better conscience. Hey, different topic. How about coming and ask me about my dog? What have you been doing for the last 47
assaulting 15-year-old kids? Well, you did.
32 years ago, sir.
All right.
Are you missing that part?
I appreciate you talking.
Oh, now you want to leave because I'm giving you advice.
Take down those Chris Hansen. What a sick, I was going to say woman. What a sick guy.
It wasn't 32 years ago. It was 20 years ago when Deanna was Devon, living in Maryland, and was convicted of sexually assaulting 2 teen boys. He was babysitting. Convicted, does time, has some other trouble with the law, transitions into his other identity, his current identity, and is living in San Diego, according to authorities, without registering as a sex offender. I'm sorry, you're here illegally. It's time to go.
Yeah, we don't have any sympathy for people like this, but these are the types of people that Democrats are going to the mattresses for.
Look, in the last month, Jesse, we have caught 45 predators seeking to exploit children. 7 of those were for a new investigative series we have going on with ICE ERO. They go out after these people who are here illegally, but have also been convicted of crimes against children. We had one guy who lived, convicted sex offender from Mexico, lived in a home next to a daycare facility and 3 blocks from a school. And as we're doing this, anti-ICE protesters are rallying outside ICE headquarters with no idea as to what we just did.
So they don't like ICE next to schools.
But it's okay to have a registered sex offender.
Registered sex
Next
offender.
door to a daycare facility.
How is it when you're out with ICE? What do they say to you?
They are
blackened salmon and catfish.
to get criminals out of this country. We're not talking about somebody who didn't check a box here. We're talking about criminals. We watched in New Mexico one early morning as they arrested a guy who was under investigation for sexually assaulting children in the home at the time. This guy's in the country illegally. So they're out there doing this, protecting children, protecting the most innocent asset we have in this society, and, you know, they're proud to show their work.
Yeah, and if someone is even accused of something like that and picked up for something like that, they're saying, oh, well, that's not a criminal because they haven't been formally convicted.
Yes,
I don't care.
In the vast majority of these cases, there's been a conviction.
Sure, but in that...
Deanna's been convicted.
I don't care. If you're accused of having sex with a kid and you're in this country illegally, you're going home.
Exactly.
We're not waiting around and wasting money on the trial. Goodbye.
Exactly.
All right, Chris Hansen.
My streaming crime network.
True Blue. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.
All right, live action right now on the Senate floor as they try to break through this impound.
Biscuits are good. Can I get some plain biscuits? 2 things of apple, cinnamon, rice cakes.
Democrats would like to see an end to this shutdown, and we want to respect Leader Thune's desire not to negotiate on ACA until after the government reopens. Therefore, we'd like to offer a simple proposal that would reopen the government and extend the ACA premium tax credits simultaneously, and then have the opportunity to start negotiating longer-term solutions to health care costs.
Hello. Oh, honey, actual honey, and then plain biscuits, like the ones you got me for what's that called? The food bank from the church or whatever. No, biscuits I can put Dunkin' coffee. Yeah. Okay, I'll take the chocolate one, but can you find ones that aren't whole grain as well? Well, I'll see if I can find like something from Britain, if they have anything like, you know, that little gift box from Britain that or Japan that I used to get when I was living at home. I was gonna see if I could get one of those. Okay. Cause hold on. I guess yeah. It's just I don't want to eat those crackers. I guess if they have other options as well that I might like. It's not that I don't like them, it's just that I'm looking for the ones that they were perfect for coffee, but I forget the name of the brand, but they're like little gingerbread or okay. Alright, bye.
Kennedy, welcome. Always good to have you with us. What is your response to Chuck Schumer's proposal here to keep those
coffee biscuits
and reopen the government with the clean CR?
God, please give me patience, because if you give me strength, I'm going to need bail money. What Senator Schumer is suggesting is that we do the dumbest thing possible that won't work. Stupid should hurt more. Senator Schumer says we should just extend the status quo for a year. What does that mean? That means that we would have to take $35 billion of taxpayer money and give it directly to the health insurance companies without any commitment of lowering premiums. How is that going to reduce health care costs? How's that going to reduce premiums? The health care companies are going to take $35 billion from the taxpayers and put it into their pockets. I mean, duh. I don't know what Senator Schumer is thinking.
Government needs direction. Eyes up. We'll find them. Sure thing.
Am I going to vote for this? The short answer is no. The long answer is hell no. I think we're just going to have to get used to the fact that we're in a shutdown. We're going to be in a shutdown. I voted 14 times.
Don't leave my sight.
To shutdown. the Democrats and Rand Paul have voted 14 times to keep the government shut down. We're just going to be here for a while.
Okay, it doesn't seem like what Senator Schumer just proposed is really any different than what Democrats have been all along. They wanted $1.5 trillion. We could say $36 billion. I guess there's a lot of different numbers on this package, but to keep the Obamacare benefits were expanded during COVID, and of course, once you give something, very hard to claw it back. So that's where we are right now, and so the impact of having that extension pulled away is making people's new health care benefits rise. But as you say, it's not fixing the problem in terms of lowering costs. Is there any, I just spoke with Governor Sununu, and he said, what they need to do is accept Senator Sununu's next bill and agree on it and get them across the board on it. What do you think that is going to look like?
He's just going to bring up the same resolution that he brought up 14 times. Look, if we learned anything during this shutdown, we learned that the Obamacare Affordable Care Act exchanges, they're not working. They're not lowering health care costs. Extending the status quo is one to do that.
President Trump has a solution, and he talked about it again today. What?
I am totally in favor of terminating the filibuster, and we would be back to work within 10 minutes after that vote took place. So we passed if we terminated the filibuster. Voter IDs, no mail-in voting, no cash bail, no men and women's sports, no welfare for illegals. You can go on and on.
Did they have to embrace it to eliminate the filibuster?
Well, President Trump has made his position, at least to me, abundantly clear. I talked to him this morning. He makes a persuasive argument, but here's in essence what he said now. My response to the president this morning, after listening slightly, was, well, the quickest way, the best way to prevent all that is let's don't put the Democrats back in
very much. Always good to hear from you, sir. We'll see what it goes on this Friday afternoon.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Well, the government shutdown is now in place.
We're on the filibuster. The Senate hopefully takes a test vote later this afternoon. Our next guest was the House Speaker during the last government shutdown in 2021. Kevin McCarthy joining us this morning. And Kevin, what do you think is the off-ramp here? How do we get out of this?
Well, first, I'm the only speaker that never had a shutdown. I've been in Congress, been the leader during a shutdown, but no. I think the number one thing you have to have here, you're going to have leadership that's going to put people before politics. You listen to the language of Schumer. He thinks the more pain gets better every day for them. Or if you look at Liz Clark, the Democrat, in the House, she literally said that when you think that this will inflict pain on people, they just have to put up with that. And the sad part about this, I call it the Seinfeld shutdown, because it's really about nothing. It's the political willpower to do the right thing just to keep the government open, because it can't have change.
sense that there's any sort of concern among Republicans on Capitol Hill that this might end up blowing up on them?
Yes, there is some. The country's very divided, so it's pretty even both sides. But for some reason, the Republicans always blame on what's going on. They have done the exact right thing. They're the ones who voted to keep government open. Didn't ask for anything outlandish. They said they would negotiate going forward. The president's been governing around. I think Senator Cruz has done a tremendous job. The one thing I would sit back and look at, Democrats think they're continuing to win for this reason. The President in the House and the Senate. The House has not met for a number of months. They believe privately that every day the House is not in session, they just run another day. So they got the day you could be running out the clock. So you could have a hearing. Yeah, you're running out the clock on them. It's a tough strategy. So when you look next year and you think you have this whole agenda, it takes a long time to pass a bill. You have to have committee hearings. You have to have markups. You could be using the floor against the Democrats. You could be putting smart bills on there and putting them in tough conditions to how they want to vote. But right now, you can say, oh, but the worst part about all of this is members of Congress and Senate. Everybody else doesn't get paid. Those TSA agents, those Capitol Police officers. But the members of Congress are getting paid and they're sitting at home.
Yeah, they literally voted for themselves to get paid while working class people aren't getting paid or aren't getting SNAP benefits during this time. How much of this is about, I mean, at some point, this is going to start to impact the economy. And even for some Democrats, that's a positive thing. And then at the same time, Speaker, you have President Trump saying, we're going to do filibuster. Do you think that that threat is real? Or do you think Coons and those people are just too conservative, too establishment, would never actually have the you-know-what to fight hard like that?
But if I was Democrats, I would understand that threat is real. Tell me the one thing. When President Trump is behind something, he makes it happen on the floor in the House and in the Senate. It almost might be what Schumer wants, because he's afraid to actually vote for the right thing moving forward. So if I was a Democrat, I would worry about that new push going forward. Do the right thing, open the government up, and you've got a number of people negotiating. Now, I will tell you, let me be clear about this. I know almost every single Republican colleague I have, they get paid automatically because of the Constitution.
I'll find you eventually.
I'd like to see what the Democrats do. They can charge you a shutdown. The Republicans who have done the right thing are not going to they're making a sacrifice for the next
Kevin, really fast, you're looking great. Do you want to tell our audience what you're doing?
No, I don't want to tell them.
I had dinner with this very remarkable family. There's Rachel and Sean Duffy. And I looked at Sean Duffy. He looks so good and long together. I said, what are you doing? And he told me about the grass-fed, no processed food, and I've lost more. I haven't been this lower in my weight since I think I was in high school. So I'm not feeling better, no inflammation. And you know what? I get a little more sleep.
Oh, that's great. I saw you in person. Your skin looks great. So,
There you have it. You can't get tired.
it's working.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
That kimchi works well.
Yeah, kimchi's good for your gut health. You're really doing the diet. I love it. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Steve Ducey. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm April Earhart. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. Catch our honest interviews and most compelling analysis. The headline of the New York Times was Democrats block federal worker pay bill as shutdown drags on. The vote to pay military and essential workers broke down like this: 54 yes, 45 no. Just 3 Democrats joined Republicans in voting to pay furloughed workers. And Senator John Fetterman was quick to point out, I'm a Democrat, I voted yes. Senator Fetterman has been one of the clearest voices in calling for an end to the shutdown, analogizing the situation to Groundhog Day.
That applies. Now it's Groundhog Day. You know,
aren't surprised by the continual votes by your party to not reopen the government, but were you surprised when the vote came on Thursday to pay military, to pay furloughed workers, and you were just one of 3 Democrats saying, let's pay these essential workers?
I'm not surprised when they...
Democratic is a threat.
Maybe I can help. Fellow Democrats that are dug in, and now until there's an absolute
so you want
ironclad kind of a deal. And I do fundamentally believe Leader Thune is an honorable guy, and I do believe we could have a sincere conversation, you know, after we can open it up. And then we don't have to do this 3-card Monty about, you know, do this, do that, do that. Let's just open it up, and then we have our SNAP, you know, we have everyone's paid, and then we can have that conversation and see if we can extend those tax credit deals, because I do believe there are enough Republicans that would like to see that too. And now, for me, I don't check. It's like, are we winning, are we losing? And it's like, because I guarantee America is losing in this place right now.
You know, no doubt America's losing in that, Senator. I wonder, you know, you're in the halls of Congress. You are in some of these meetings with fellow Democrats, and do you hear privately some of your Democratic colleagues saying, we got to end this thing?
Well, I mean, I just know that 2 things must be true in this situation right now. You know, SNAP depends on 2 million Pennsylvanians to feed themselves.
In order, so
40 million Americans across the nation. That's a big deal right now. And now we all realize that a lot of the premiums are going to go up, and we might want to address that too. We can support those 2 things, but I think it's fundamentally wrong, regardless, to shut our government down for those things. You know, the Republican side has their priorities, we have our priorities. You know, I think we have to agree that our government must be open.
And you think it's time for Republicans to nuke the filibuster and end this thing?
I mean, I think I've broached that before. I think it's entirely appropriate, and I would remind people
what the fuck?
We wanted to nuke the entire filibuster. You know, I'm referring to right now carving out the specific right now. I'm not talking about eliminating the entire filibuster. It's really not much different than about the en-banc kind of nominees, and I think that was appropriate to do that in that situation they had to. And carving it out the filibuster now would make it almost impossible to shut our government down in the future, regardless if it's the Democrats or the Republicans doing these things. We should remove ourselves our power to shut this down in this way.